boss, bitch, you know. For sure. You're now listening to the Mind of an Antares Moon. I'm the Archangel Uriel, and I'm here to carry out God duties and motherfucking responsibilities. And right now we're going to talk about the metaphysics behind manifesting. Now manifesting, look, there's a bunch of tools and attributes you can utilize in order to help your manifestation road. And one of the most dominant ones is the law of attraction. And everything has its own set of laws. And one of the first laws of law of attraction is opposites will always attract. So before we even get into this motherfucking shit, we're going to get deep into this motherfucker because this is what people need to understand when we talk about manifesting. Now, let's break down some clear things so you can understand before we go out throughout this video. Now, we're in the system of spirits where your spirit is constantly expanding and contracting. Expansion and contraction. So you're expanding and contracting in your own secluded space. And based upon what space you are in, aka a spirit or a space that predated you and was in that vortex relative to things before you, that's going to let you know what kind of aspect your expansion or contraction is going to play out in. But for the most part, we're all in some type of system of expansion and contraction. Now look at it like this. The expansion, the contraction period is nothing, no thing. The expansion period will be like the yang, the external, the pushing out, the moving forward, the dying, the death, the transformation, the going in something, the going in and going without. You see what I'm saying? All this concept is tied into the expansion period. Now within that expansion, those experiences plays out as lights, flights, air, information. And throughout that information is added to your spirit, and it gives your spirit enough information and knowledge to know what to do through the next transformative period. So think about the expansion as a catastrophic moment or a situation that you may have to go through or obstacle, and that's the birth or death or the transformation. You see what I'm saying? So think about it in that aspect when we talk about expansion and contraction. The expansion will be you transforming, and through that information of that transforming, you gain enough information to your spirit to know what to do and what not to do next time, who to bring and what not to bring, in order for you to sustain that position, in order for you to know how much you're going to receive and how much you can actually handle. And actually the universe is constantly putting you through a test, because the universe is trying to decipher how much you can handle and how much you can't. And we're going to get into that also. So let me hit this motherfucker. Alright, now let's break this shit down. Let's talk about manifesting. But first of all, let's talk about law of attraction. The opposites will always attract, because this is how the universe is going to decipher if you can handle what the fuck you can handle or not. And a lot of times, this is why you get that saying, be careful what you ask for. Now, when you are attracted to something that you want to manifest, right? Whatever you are attracted to appear to be attractive. So, never mind the fact that there's a group of spirits or a group of people or a group of spirits in bodies that's utilizing lights and shapes and forms that they know people will be attracted to. So, this is how they gain their energy and source and utilize your ass and become a motherfucking body snatcher. But for the most part, be careful what you are attracted to, because whatever you're trying to gain traction of or whatever you're trying to attract may not be mixed in the same percentage of your elements. And what do I mean by that? Let me break this down to y'all reality, because I might be going too far out for y'all. Let's look at school, learning. So let's look at the education system. That is mixed and mingled with a bunch of air and earth element. Now what do I mean by that? Air represents thinking, communicating, and analyzing. Earth represents thinking and practicalizing and making sense out of things and stabilizing things and making common sense. So when you talk about a person with a lot of fire and water, right, then their way of teaching, it may take them longer to manifest or attract the forms of teaching of math or science or English. You know what I'm saying? With water and fire, you should be more in the energy signature of trying to teach about whether gym or art class or home ec class or things or things that's or music class. You see what I'm saying? Because that match more of your percentage of elements. So just and vice versa, it would take longer for an air or earth teacher to try to portray and teach those kind of classes. Music, a health, home ec class, you know what I'm saying, gym class. And vice versa. It'll take longer for a water or air teacher to try to sit and learn and then start trying to teach about math and science and shit like that. So even though we got teachers that do it, fire and water teachers that do teach math and things of that nature, you need to understand that you may be in an area amongst people, places, and things that's forcing you to correlate your energy and your elements with these energies and these elements, because the energies and elements that people are pointing to probably make sense at the time for your location, especially if you're trying to get a job or something like that. So you can find yourself trying to reshape and formulate your energy just to be consumed or just to relate to the energy that you're being forced into. So it's still taking you longer and more experiences and more hardships to get from point A to point B to become that teacher. But it's not saying that you can't become that teacher. It's just saying that you don't even have to go through all that stress if you just work in your natural natures. So be careful what you are attracting, because what you create is a responsibility on all levels. See, your thoughts is your children. Your feelings and emotions, the things you push out, all your creations, your word. These are your creations. These are your kids. That's why I say you give birth to your gods or your demons. So if you got a child that goes against you or or oppose you in some type of way, then you need to think about what kind of mind state or feelings and emotions you was in before you had that child, because that's what you was worshiping. The stuff that's on your mind and your feelings and emotions, you're worshiping that. I don't care who lied to you. It shouldn't be always on your mind and emotions if you're not worshiping, because you could change your thoughts and emotions like that. So you was ever constantly on your mind and things of that nature. That was you created, on the highest note, you created a world, which was a thought, right? But then that's the daughters of men you created. Now a spirit can go into that world and make a heaven or hell out of it. Then once you consume with it and it becomes your habit, it's something you constantly do, and then you end up having a child, that motherfucking spirit that went into that first body, light body, was a follower in was a leader in your body, and now has became your motherfucking child. So if you got a child that opposed you, that should let you know what the fuck you was worshiping before you had your child. Because goddamn it, as a child, you are the motherfucking God. I don't know one child that was born giving orders. All I know is kids being born and everybody around that kid and the parents fucking worship and put down their motherfucking life for that child. That lets you know that it wasn't until later on in life you started calcifying your third eye, first eye. You started calcifying, you started blocking and putting your chakras, certain chakras in shades, because you started going through life and started experiencing and started getting lost, listening to other people and shit. And then somehow the fucking concept got reversed. When you know as a child, everything outside of you worked for you. That's how you came into this world. You wouldn't even resonate with that body to go into it as a spirit if it wasn't like that. You see what I'm saying? So don't ever forget that. So yeah, you gave birth to your God. So everybody who give birth to their successful kids, that should let you know what kind of mind state the parents was in. But that's another video. I don't even want to get into all that. But for the most part, it's like a portal or a vortex that you get into when you want to attract something. So when you start to want to attract something, right, you are attracted to that. So be careful what you are attracted to, because these are your responsibilities. And responsibilities become burdens. So if you're working into an element or a parameter or a percentage of elements that doesn't match you, you better make sure you have a representation. That's where the concept of managers or lawyers even came from. For an example, if you was to go into a neighborhood and you don't know nobody in that motherfucking neighborhood, you better make sure you know somebody in that neighborhood or get your fucking head knocked off. Otherwise, you don't match that element. You're trying to do something that's not you. Motherfucker, so you experience some catastrophic moments and shit like that, and shit that's out of your motherfucking hands. So you better have a representation of that element through that portal that share that same element. Otherwise, that portal and astral travel will motherfucker transform your ass physically, to the point you'll get physically transformed out of this motherfucking chemical mixture that your ass got as elements. Hee hee. Now, let's talk about, let's start manifesting. Let's say if you want to attract something, right? Now that we got all that out the way. Now this is what's going to actually happen. Once you start to want to attract that, it's going to start off as a thought. So, like I said, when we talk about law of attraction, that's the first tool you have to use to manifest. So when you start to utilize law of attraction, opposites will always attract, because that's the information or the experience you need to go through in order for your spirit to develop enough information to go to the next level. Otherwise, you're going to keep running back and staying in the same pattern, or getting out of that circumstance and as a whole, and letting some other spirit tell you that you don't need what you want. So look, now that you start to, it's going to start off as a thought. So when you want to manifest, when you want to attract something, first you're going to get the opposing thought. Then you're going to, once you start to feel, have an emotion about something you want to get, you're going to get the opposing emotion and feeling. Then once you start to put these things into action and start to act on the things you want to manifest, you're going to start to see other people's viewpoints and start to see other people act on these things in opposing ways that's different than yours. And people getting from point A to point B in that same realm of reality. Because you ever get that concept, like, say you want a car. The moment you get on the road driving in your car that you got now, you start seeing all the cars that you want. See, it's like you manifest. It's the same way you look. It's a reflection. Everything is a reflection. The mirror will give you that first-hand science. If you start to feel good, when you look in the mirror, you'll find something that look good about you, attractive about you. When you feel bad, when you look in the mirror, it's going to reflect that energy. So you're going to start to pinpoint everything that look awful on you. So it's all about reflection. That's what you need to know. But for the most part, that's dealing with the reflection energies. But what you emitting out will come back in some way, shape, or form. So first, when you start to act on these things, you start to view other people's opposing ways of doing these things. So that's the law of attraction. So that's going to be the first small scale of the transformative situation you go through in this expansion and contraction moment. Because say you want to, you're trying to manifest something to gain traction, right? So you're going to see everything that has to do with that attraction, but you're going to see the opposite of it. And you're going to see the small scale because the universe is trying to determine how much you can handle. Now here's how the universe does that, right? When you start to want to gain traction on something, right? The universe brings scenarios in your life. Now, depending on how much emotions and feelings and other thought processes from other people that you didn't gain and process yourself, depending on how much of that you put on the spirit of that information, that's going to determine if the universe know if you can handle it or not. So for an example, say you go through the first situation, and that situation to you was like catastrophic. It was like overwhelming. And you was like, oh no, I don't know if I want this or not. And you go run and hide. Or you might be the type of person that start developing ideas, or you want to start taking shortcuts, which a shortcuts ain't nothing but going around, aka taking a longer route to get from point A to point B when you could have just went through something. You could have went through that obstacle. But for the most part, see, that's how it will play out. And then once the universe see everything you're adding from that first scenario, what you're actually doing is you're proving, or you're showing the universe that you're not ready. You're not ready. You're not ready. Kevin, shout out to Kevin Hart. He wasn't ready. But yeah, for the most part, you're letting the universe know that you can't handle it. So you can't handle the next level. So you're going to stay in that routine. You're going to stay in that pattern of what you do have and what you do got power and control over. Because the universe can see that if it was to hand you any more, you won't even be able to handle it, because this first situation, this first expansion, this first birth and death, this first transformation, you couldn't even handle that. So you couldn't even handle the transform. So you didn't even go through the experience to add on to your spirit to know what to do and what not to do in the next experience. So you will be as a chaotic person in that next experience, and the universe will see that. And if you're a person